Deanna Antoinette Cook was 32 years old, and she wanted to be a star. Not the kind you see on magazine covers, though she had the energy for it. Deanna was the kind of person who walked into a room and every head turned. Her mother, Vicky, would laugh when she talked about her daughter. She was always on a level 10, Vicky said. Always the center of attention. She met no strangers. Deanna was the oldest of 4 sisters. The leader. As a child, she'd been a track star, setting records. She loved animals, loved her family. And more than anything, she loved her 2 daughters, Anya and Anea. By the summer of 2012, Deanna had survived 2 divorces and thrown herself into building something stable. She was writing a book. Working at a car dealership. And she'd just moved into a new home, a tree-lined street with kids on bikes, neighbors with open doors, flowers in front gardens. Her house had a pool. Each daughter had her own bedroom. When Anya and Anea saw it, they told their mother it felt like a castle. Deanna believed this was it. This was where they'd be safe. She was wrong. Because no matter how many times she moved, no matter how many restraining orders she filed, no matter how many times she called police and begged for help, he always found her. But Deanna had already done everything right. She'd called police. Filed reports. Documented everything. Begged for protection. And it hadn't been enough. On August 17, 2012, Deanna would make a phone call that lasted more than 10 minutes. Her voice would be recorded. Her attacker's voice would be recorded. She would name him. She would beg for help. She would fight for her life. And then, silence. Just running water. Just a dog barking. When police finally arrived nearly an hour later, they knocked. They heard the dog. They checked a few windows. And then they left. 3 days later, her family would kick that door down themselves. What they found would destroy them. And what they'd learn about that phone call would expose a system so broken that an entire city would be forced to ask, how many warnings does it take? This is the story of Deanna Cook. Hit that subscribe button now. We're racing to 1,000 subscribers before January 31st. Subscribe now. August 17, 2012. A Friday. Deanna had a routine with her mother that never changed. Every day, they spoke twice. The first call, 6:30 a.m., their prayer group call together. That Friday morning, it happened like always. They prayed. They talked. They laughed. And when the call ended, Deanna said something that would haunt Vicky forever. "Bye, Mama." Vicky responded without thinking. "Goodbye, Deanna." Later, Vicky would realize what felt wrong. She never said goodbye to her daughter. Never. It was always, "See you later." The word goodbye felt too final. She didn't know why she'd said it. The second call was supposed to come around 10 o'clock. Deanna driving to work, checking in like always. The phone never rang. By 1 o'clock, Deanna's daughters were expecting their mother. She'd promised to drop off money. One of the girls was getting her hair done for school. Deanna never showed. Hours became a day. A day became 2. But there was a problem. By Sunday morning, August 19th, Vicky Cook was past worried. She was panicking. That Sunday, there was church. The family attended every week without exception. Deanna didn't show. No call. No text. Nothing. After the service, Vicky grabbed her daughter Kartha and Deanna's daughters, Anya and Anea. Together, they drove to Deanna's house. 1:35 p.m. The first thing they saw was the water. It poured from underneath the garage door, spilling across the driveway, trickling into the street. So much water it had formed a stream to the curb. Inside, a dog barking. Frantic. Relentless. And even from outside, they could smell it. Death has a smell you never forget. Vicky dialed 911. What happened next would become one of the most painful parts of this case. The operator answered. Vicky explained, her daughter was missing since Friday. Water pouring from the house. A terrible smell. The dog wouldn't stop barking. Something was very, very wrong. The operator's response was cold. How old is your daughter? She's 32. Have you called all the jails and hospitals? Vicky couldn't believe it. She told the operator police had already been to this house once, on the 17th, the day Deanna disappeared. She begged for help. The operator refused. Police can't help you get in the house. You need to call the jails first. Vicky kept begging. The operator kept refusing. And this is where everything changed. Cartha looked at her mother. Looked at that door. Step back, Mama, she said. I'm kicking it in. The back door splintered open. The smell hit them like a wall, thick, sweet, rotting. Water covered the floors, ankle-deep in some rooms. The dog still barking, pacing. Vicky was still on the phone with 911, describing everything, demanding help. The operator finally agreed to dispatch officers. She told Vicky to go outside and wait. They didn't wait. Anya ran to the front door, pounding from outside. Cartha and Vicky opened it from inside. The girl walked into that flooded house without hesitation. The family followed in single file, wading through water, stepping over debris. Furniture overturned. Doors torn off hinges. All of it led to one place. Deanna's bedroom. Vicky pushed the door. It fell off its hinges and crashed to the floor. The room, destroyed. Clothes everywhere. Broken glass. The bathroom door half open. Vicky stepped inside. Deanna was in the bathtub. Floating face down. The tap still running. Wearing only her underwear. The water around her body faintly red. Her skin, burned. Peeling. The water scalding when she was put in. Her face bloated beyond recognition. Disfigured. Cartha ran forward to turn off the taps. Vicky grabbed her arm and yanked her back. Don't touch anything. This is a crime scene. And then Vicky started screaming. He did it. He said he was going to do it. And he did it. Everyone in that house knew exactly who she meant. Deanna Cook had been dead for 3 days. Decomposing in that tub since Friday. The scalding water accelerating the process. Skin sloughing off in sheets. Face so swollen that identification would require dental records. The medical examiner would determine she'd been strangled to death. Everything else, the burns, the water, the position, all came after. Delvecchio Patrick strangled her first. Then put her in that tub, turned the water as hot as it would go, and walked away. Left her there to be found days later by the people who loved her most. Delvecchio Patrick. 35 years old. Deanna's second ex-husband. A man with a criminal record that read like a greatest hits of violence, assault, aggravated robbery, drug possession, resisting arrest. In and out of jail his entire adult life. Deanna married him in 2008. Vicky said there were red flags before the wedding. But Deanna was optimistic. She believed she could help him. Believed love could fix what was broken. It couldn't. The marriage was a nightmare. Delvecchio was controlling. Violent. Possessive. When Deanna filed for divorce, he didn't accept it. He stalked her. Showed up at her home, her job, her family's houses. Made threats, specific, detailed threats, against Deanna, her daughters, Vicky. He told them, over and over, he was going to kill them. Deanna got a restraining order. It didn't stop him. She called police. Again and again and again. Vicky would later say Deanna filed 100 complaints. What matters, Deanna did everything right. Documented everything. Reported everything. Used the system exactly as survivors are told. And it failed her. On at least one occasion, police had to taser Delvecchio mid-attack just to get him off her. Every time Deanna moved, he found her. 3 days before she was killed, she posted on social media about a stalker watching her house. About her fear of a break-in. And then she wrote something that would haunt everyone who read it. I've filed 100 complaints and nobody is doing nothing. 3 days later, she was dead. But here's what her family didn't know yet. Here's what they wouldn't learn until they sat in that police station, demanding answers. Deanna had called 911 on August 17. And that call had been recorded. From an adjoining room, Vicky and her family could hear it playing. A voice they recognized. A voice they loved. Deanna's voice. Before we continue, you need to know something. In a moment, we're going to describe the 911 call Deanna made the morning she was killed. The full recording is more than 10 minutes long and has never been fully released. What has been made available is deeply disturbing. We're not including this for shock. We're including it because it's evidence. Because it shows, in Deanna's own voice, how hard she fought. And because it exposes how badly the system failed. If you need to pause or step away, do it now. 9:51 a.m. August 17, 2012. Deanna's cell phone connects to Dallas 911. Dallas 911. What's your emergency? Deanna's voice, panicked, breathless, terrified. Hello. I need police. I need an address. Hello. In the background, sounds of a struggle. Something knocked over. Heavy breathing. The operator asks again for an address. Deanna's calling from a cell phone, harder to pinpoint location. The system shows only a street name, Crimson Court. And then Deanna says a name. Red. Delvecchio Patrick's nickname. She says it clearly. Then says his full name. Multiple times. She identifies her attacker in the first few minutes. In the background, his voice. Mocking. Taunting. Where's the police? He asks, voice dripping contempt. Deanna screams. Begs. Fights. And then Delvecchio says something that leaves no room for misunderstanding. I'm going to kill you. He says it more than once. Deanna keeps screaming. Keeps fighting. And then the sounds change. Running water. Wet sounds. Gurgling. Choking. Sounds matching exactly what happens when someone's head is forced underwater. And then, silence. For 15 full minutes, the line stays open. No voices. No struggle. Just water running from a faucet. Just a dog barking somewhere in the house. Deanna Cook was already dead. The operator who took the call sent information to dispatch. Logged it as domestic disturbance. Sent the street name. But no exact address at first. Deanna called from a cell phone. The operator kept searching. 9 minutes into the call, she found a match. Deanna had called 911 before. The operator updated dispatch with Deanna's house number. Added one word, urgent. The call was classified priority 2. Not the highest urgency. Officers were dispatched. But on their way, they made 2 stops. 1, to check a burglar alarm at a different location. 2, at a 7-Eleven. To buy bottles of water. By the time they arrived, nearly 50 minutes had passed since Deanna's first scream. The officers knocked. Heard a dog barking. Blinds drawn. No answer. They walked the perimeter. Checked a few windows. They did not go to the back. Did not try to force entry. They concluded Deanna had left or wasn't answering. They got back in their car and drove away. Inside that house, Deanna lay dead in a bathtub. Water still running. She'd been dead less than an hour. For 2.5 years, Deanna's family waited. Waited for answers. For justice. To face the man who took everything. Delvecchio Patrick was arrested. Charged with first-degree murder. Pleaded not guilty. In January 2015, his trial began. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. The prosecution's strategy was simple: let Deanna speak for herself. They had the 911 recording. Her voice naming her killer. Years of documented abuse. Restraining orders. Police reports. Witness after witness ready to testify. But they knew the defense would try to blame Deanna. So they brought up everything first. Her past struggles with substance use. A prior incident where she defended herself against Delvecchio, ruled self-defense, resulting in acquittal. They laid it all out before the defense could weaponize it. And then there was the tattoo. While in jail awaiting trial, Delvecchio got a tattoo on his leg. A woman surrounded by flames. Mouth open in a scream. The prosecution argued it depicted Deanna, burning in scalding water, screaming for help that never came. The defense claimed it was just a rap artist. The jury would decide. Deanna Cook took the stand first. She walked the jury through the worst day of her life. The calls that never came. The water pouring from the garage. Kicking down the door. Wading through her daughter's flooded home. Finding Deanna in that bathtub. I saw like a shadow behind the curtain, Vicky said, voice breaking. And I started screaming because it was her. The water was still running. And I just kept saying, he killed her. He said he was going to do it, and he did it. People in the gallery sobbed. The judge called a recess. Delvecchio Patrick sat at the defense table. No expression. No reaction. Nothing. Over the next days, witness after witness took the stand. Family. Friends. Co-workers. All told the same story: years of abuse. Threats. Restraining orders that didn't work. Police calls that went nowhere. A former Dallas County Jail employee testified she overheard Delvecchio tell another inmate, "I killed that bitch." And then the prosecution played the 911 call. For more than 10 minutes, the courtroom sat in absolute silence. The jury listened to Deanna beg for help. Heard her name her attacker. Heard Delvecchio's voice. Heard her scream. Heard the water. Heard the silence. When it ended, no one moved. No one spoke. The defense tried to argue Deanna's death was an accident. That she'd been hallucinating due to drug use and mental health struggles. They called a toxicologist. Deanna had PCP in her system when she died. They brought in a forensic psychologist who conducted a psychological autopsy, testifying Deanna had been treated for bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, substance abuse. The defense's argument: Deanna was out of touch with reality. The 911 call wasn't reliable. She'd caused her own death by passing out in the bathtub. It was cruel. And the prosecution destroyed it. Assistant District Attorney Trey Stock looked directly at the jury. The idea that she is hallucinating her husband saying, multiple times, "I'm going to kill you," that is preposterous. She didn't hallucinate that. I heard it. You heard it. Delvecchio heard it. And he said it. Even the defense's own psychologist admitted under cross-examination, no evidence of delusion or hallucination in Deanna's voice during that call. Delvecchio Patrick never took the stand. That was his right. But his silence was noted. The jury deliberated 3 hours and 20 minutes. Guilty. Guilty of murder. The courtroom erupted. The judge told the gallery not to cry out. But you couldn't stop it. Vicky collapsed into her family's arms. Deanna's daughters wept. Outside, people who'd waited years finally let themselves breathe. But the trial wasn't over. Now came sentencing. Prosecution asked for life. Defense asked for as little as 5 years. Delvecchio's mother took the stand, begged for mercy. Said her son had 2 young children. A family that loved him. A father in poor health. The jury didn't care. 85 years in prison. Not life. But close. Delvecchio would be eligible for parole at 65. Whether he'd ever get it, that remains to be seen. As Deanna's daughters gave victim impact statements, Delvecchio Patrick laughed. And as he was led out in handcuffs, he raised his middle finger at them. Former prosecutor Heath Harris would later say Delvecchio was as close to the devil as you could get. Vicky said he had no soul. No feelings. No conscience. But for Deanna's family, the conviction wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a larger fight. Deanna's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the city of Dallas and Dallas Police Department. They alleged gross negligence. Systemic failure. Discrimination. The lawsuit laid out every failure. The operator sent only a street name initially, no house number, no urgency. Urgent wasn't added until 9 minutes in. The call was classified priority 2, not the highest level. The responding officers stopped twice. Once for a burglar alarm. Once for drinks at 7-Eleven. When they arrived 50 minutes later, they knocked, heard a dog, checked a few windows. And left. They did not force entry. Did not go to the back. Assumed she'd left or wasn't answering. Deanna was inside. Already dead. The lawsuit raised a question that hung over the case: would the response have been different if this call came from a wealthy, white neighborhood? Deanna's sister asked directly, would they have stopped at 7-Eleven if it had been Highland Park? In 2019, U.S. District Judge David C. Godbey dismissed all claims. The Supreme Court declined to hear an appeal. The lawsuit was over. But the city had already begun making changes. Police Chief David Brown publicly acknowledged the failures. Mayor Mike Rawlings went further. Said the city failed Deanna. The system failed her. He, as mayor, failed her. Everyone failed her. The neighbors. The media. The police. Me. The 911 call center was overhauled. Staffing increased. Protocols rewritten. Domestic violence calls reclassified as higher priority. The operator who answered Vicky's call on August 19, who told her to call the jails herself, was fired. 2 others reprimanded. The operator who took Deanna's original call received a 10-day suspension. That operator, Tanita Hopkins, later broke her silence. Described the 911 system understaffed, overwhelmed, stretched too thin. Said she did her job to the best of her ability. Sent the information she had. Typed urgent. Updated the address. But admitted she didn't hear the call the way others described. Didn't hear Deanna choking. Didn't hear the full violence. If I had, Hopkins said, I would have done something different. Whether that's true, we'll never know. What we know, average response time for Dallas 911 calls is now 3 seconds. Down from what it was in 2012. Whether that's enough to prevent another Deanna Cook, time will tell. Mayor Rawlings launched a citywide campaign to end domestic violence. Deanna's case became the foundation. But no policy change could bring her back. In the years since, her family has worked to make sure her name is never forgotten. They created a nonprofit called Deanna's Voice. Provides support to survivors. Offers education about healthy relationships. Runs a scholarship fund in Deanna's name. Operates a program called Breaking the Barriers, helping families navigate the systems that failed Deanna. Her daughters, Anya and Anea, have grown into strong, resilient young women. Anaya, professional volleyball player competing overseas. Anya, pursuing education and advocacy work. Both have spoken publicly about their mother's legacy. When you say her name, Deanna's sister Kartha said, especially in this city, people remember who she is. And that's important to me. When asked what she'd say to Delvecchio Patrick, Vicky's answer broke hearts. I hate that you did what you did. But I forgive you. Because I can't make it to heaven with hatred in my heart. She paused. I never thought I would live to see my kids die. I thought they would bury me. But that wasn't the plan God had. Deanna Antoinette Cook was 32 years old when she was killed. She was a mother. A daughter. A sister. A friend. She wanted to be a star. And in a way, she became one. Not the way she imagined. But in a way that mattered. Her story exposed failures that endangered countless others. Sparked reforms that may save lives. Inspired a movement. And forced all of us to confront an uncomfortable truth: the systems we trust only work when we demand they do. Delvecchio Patrick remains in prison. Eligible for parole in 2042, at 65. But Deanna's voice, her literal voice, captured on that 911 recording, will outlive him. Will outlive all of us. Because when she called for help that August morning, she wasn't just calling for herself. She was calling for every woman who would come after her. Every victim who would need the system to work. Every daughter who deserved to be saved. Her voice is still speaking. The question is, are we finally listening? Subscribe to Cold Case Beacon. Share this video. Drop a comment below. Because silence isn't golden. And Deanna's voice refuses to be silenced. We'll see you in the next case.